Hello students, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Hope you all are doing well. Um, in the previous session, we left from this slide, so we will continue from this slides, in which we have tool for controlling organizational performance. We have some tools in which we have traditional control and in which we have some sort of analysis. The first one is liquidity, and the second is leverage, and then activity and profitability. So, in the coming slide, we will look in all those ratios in detail and briefly, only briefly discussed it, not in very much detail because it's the topic of accounting, but we will try to cover some basic things about these ratios. And then we have budget analysis, in which we have the quantitative standard and deviation. Um, so, what's the quantitative standards? Basically, quantitative standard is that we set some sort of benchmark for our company, for our organization, and then we try to achieve it. And if there is any deviation in those and variation in those in achieving those benchmarks, so we will look at those deviation and analyze it. And if the deviation and variation will in the range, so we will do nothing. But if it's out of range, so we will try to identify the cause and identifying the reason of variation. So now move to the next slide, and in which we have the formulas of ratios and what the purpose of and how to calculate it. So the first one is liquidity. Basically, liquidity ratio, we take out the liquidity ratio because we want to identifying, we want to know if the organization have ability to meet its current liability or not. So the formula of liquidity ratio is current assets divided by current liability, and in which we look and analyze whether the organization is able to meet their short-term obligation, short-term liability, short-term debts. Then we have as ad, asset test, in which in the current assets we have inventories. So sometime inventories as we are not able to sell or sell or try to sell or liquidize our inventory, so we minus our inventory from the current assets and we divided it by current liability. So we get the liquidity of organization more accurately, and in this way we will able to get the more accurate and more appropriate answer or knowledge or interpretation or analysis about the organization, whether it's able to meet its current liability or not. Then the second one is leverage. Leverage ratio is basically about whether the organization is able to meet or to pay their interest, which the organization is taking from the bank or any financial institution. So in this we have two types of ratios. The first one is debt to assets, total debts. For how to calculate it, in the calculation we have a formula: total debts upon the total assets. So the higher the ratio, the more leverage the organization. So we divided the total debit, we divided the total assets with total debts. So if the ratio is high, so it means it's more leverage. it's able to meet its debts. On if the ratio is low, so it means the organization is not able to meet their debts. Then we have times interest earned, which in short, we call it TIE, and we can say at the coverage interest. So the formula is basically profit before interest and tax. In profit, we have interest and tax, so we divided the profit before interest and tax by total interest charge. So so we get the idea whether the organization able to meet it interest expense or not after paying the taxation or etc. Because in the profit we have so many things, we have to pay the interest, we have to pay the taxes. So it's good sometimes because leverage is good. If the organization is more is high, if the leverage ratio is high, so the organization is more leveraged. But if it's low, so it means it's not able to pay their interest. So it's good in some situation, but it's bad in other situations. So it's depend on um, the current situation of country economy and the organization as well. Then we have the activity ratio, in which we have two type of ratio: inventory turnover and total asset turnover. Basically, activity ratio is all about how efficiently organization um, use their assets, how much advantage is organization taking from their assets. So the inventory turnover formula is sales upon inventory. So what the sale of organization, we divided it from inventory. So if the ratio is high, so it means the organization using its asset efficiently and effectively. And if the ratio is low, so it means the organization is not using their inventory effectively and efficiently. Then we have total asset turnover, in which we have a sale upon total assets. So what the sale of organization, we divided it from the total asset. So um, in this in this we look at whether the organization taking the advantage from their assets or taking the potential advantage from the assets. So if the ratio is good, so it means the organization is taking or using their assets very efficiently and effectively. But if it's not good, or if the ratio is low, so it means the organization is not using their asset properly or efficiently. Then we have profitability and profit margin on sale, in which we have look how much margin the company is making on their, how much profit is the company making on their sale. So net profit after taxes and divided by total sale. So identifying the profit that various products are generating. In profitability, we are looking at the organization, how much profit or how much money the organization is making or generating. So if they are making or enough money on their sales, so it means the organization is in the profitability. Then return on investment, in the formula of this ratio is net profit after taxes and divided by total taxes. Measure the efficiency of asset to generate profit. So In this, we minus the taxes from net profit, and we divided it by total assets. So we look how much return we are getting from our investment, from our assets. So this is the ratios. Basically, we are using all these ratios to know about the organization financial condition, whether the organization making enough money, whether the organization using their asset properly, whether the organization is enough liquid or leverage, or make whether the organization is able to pay their or interest on their loans. So these all the purpose to know the financial condition of the organization, and we take all the information and data from the balance sheet and income statement. So it's so important, and because every organization exists and sole purpose is basically making profit. So we have to do this before taking any decision, before taking any loan, or before investment, and before any financial or um, financial decision. So then we have the balance scorecard. Basically, balance scorecard. Scorecard concept is taken from the sport domain. So from sport domain, they are adopting this concept in the management, and they use the balance word because there is a combination of four things in this scorecards. So we have four things. The first is financial, and then this customer, and then internal processes, and then people, innovation, growth, and assets. So what the balance scorecard do? It's the measurement tool of all the four component, and we uses this tool um, to measure the performance of company, whether the company is doing well or not, whether the company is making money or in loss, whether the company is growing or decline. So what the position, what the status, and what the performance of the company. So we evaluate from this tool. So the first one is finance. In finance, we are know about the financial condition of the organization. Then we have customers. So every company have their competitive advantage and their sole purpose. Some company want the customer satisfaction and quality service, and some focus is innovation, and some focus is um, employee satisfaction. So it's depend on the company in which area they want to be succeed, or um, they want to strong, or try to get the grip. So, if for example, if we take the example of Apple, so their sole purpose is basically innovation and customer satisfaction. They prioritize their customers. So ultimately, and they are slogan, or the name and the existence of company is basically innovation and creativity. So they prefer the creative people, and they try to do new things and innovative things. So every company have their own competitive advantage and their own major area in which they want to be strong. So it depends on the company. Then we have information control in management information system, in which we have data and information. Basically, in this We provided the information on the regular basis to our subordinate, to our employees, maybe sometimes bosses, and sometimes we get from bosses. It depends on which layer we are exist or what's the hierarchy. So basically, it's providing the information on day-to-day basis which needs to fulfill the daily task of the organization or the job or the project. So the first one is data. Data is basically the facts and figure. So it's the unorganized and the raw collection of the data. And after getting it, we analyze it, we interpretate it. Then we have information. In information, we get the data in analyzed and more organized form, and after getting it, we make some sense from it, and we interpret it, we analyze it. So then we use it in a concern area. So this is all about management information system. And then we have benchmarking. Basically, benchmark is basically about the standards, and we are searching the best practices among the competitor and non-competitor. Best practices, we can adopt any company good practices, like if we impressed if we are running any company and we are impressed by the Amazon in terms of their delivery, in terms of their service. So we can adopt their strategy, and we can adopt their practices in our company. And it's not important we adopt it from the competitor, we can adopt it from non-competitors. And after adopting it, we can achieve or lead to the superior performance. Benchmark is the standard of excellence against which to measure and compare. Basically, we set some standards, and with that standard, we compare our current situation. So, and we look our performance, whether we are growing and whether we are achieving it or not, and how much far we are and how much we have to be achieved. And it's the controlling tool in which we are identifying and managing the specific performance the gaps and the areas for improvement. So we can work on them, we can work on our drawbacks, we can work on our weak points, so and turn them into strengths. So this is um, about the benchmark. Every company is setting the benchmark, and it's the choice of company whether they are adopting the competitor benchmark or non-competitor. So then we have to with this step we have to follow in adopting the benchmark best practices program. First one is that connect the best practices to strategy and growth. If we find out that the ABC company have good practices, and it will be beneficial if we adopt it, because we we need it and we have to work on it. So we can include it in our strategy and goals. Then then identifying the best practices throughout the organization. So we look at the organization what the best practices are they are doing, and then develop the strength and recognition system for best practices. So if anyone is working towards those benchmark or best practices, so we can what uh, we can what them and give some sort of recognition. So we can basically motivate the worker or employees towards development and growth. Communicate best practices throughout the organization. So we have to acknowledge everyone. We have to inform. We have to tell every single person of the organization that this is the best practice, and we have to adopt it in our work and working environment. So then we have to create a best practice knowledge sharing system. So we have to share the knowledge about what's our knowledge about the best practices, and we have to share them with others and with our team members. So in this way, everyone knows about the benefits and the potential growth and development of all the best practices. So nurture best practices on an ongoing basis. So on day-to-day basis, on routine basis, we have to nurture them, because if we put them in our routine, so we are able to achieve our benchmark, or we will develop. So then we have to some contemporary issues in control. So hope you guys are reading the chapter, because if you will read the chapter, so it will easy for you guys to understand these concepts, because these slides are basically made from the book. All the points which are discussed in this slide are taken from the book. So please read the book. It's my advice for you, and it's beneficial for you. So the first one is cross-cultural issues. Every country is not developed equally. Some are more developed, some are underdeveloped. So the use of technology to increase direct corporate control of local operations. So use of technology is increases because this modern world everyone is using the technology, but in some culture or countries, still there is some barrier to using the technology. So it's create the problem. Legal constraint on corrective action in foreign countries. So some legal restriction on the corrective action in some foreign countries. In some countries, we can't take the corrective action because of some legally barriers. So, um, but in some countries we can do it, but in some we can't do it. Difficulty with the comparability of data collected from operation in different countries. We collect the data from different countries, so we have difficulty to compare it, to match it, to analyze it, to interpret it. So this is the cross-cultural issues. Then workplace concern, in which we have privacy versus monitoring. So in today world, basically not just organization. Everyone is monitoring us. Basically, every individual is monitored by somebody. For example, you guys are using phone, so there is GPS in this. So where you are going, so you have phone in your pocket and anyone can trace you, and your calls are on records, recording, and your messages are in records. So we are basically in the world in which we have no privacy, and everything is opened and revealed and listen and monitor by somebody. So in organization, basically the employee and the worker is monitored by their bosses, their executive. It's beneficial in some way, but it's the violation of privacy too. So email, they take the record of email, telephones, and computer internet usage. So they are doing it because they want that the productivity is up to the standard, up to the benchmark. Because if they don't monitor, so the worker and employee don't utilize the time efficiently and effectively, and because of stopping the harassment, because they can use the internet, phone, or email in many ways to harass the employee, and security purpose because they want that anyone harm the organization. So for securing the organization, they are doing this in confidentiality. Sometimes they don't want that some strategy and some plans or some news are leaked to others. So for confidentiality purpose, they are monitored their staff, their worker, and intellectual property protection. So then we have the employee thief. An employee thief basically the employee is taking the company property for personal use. So it's illegal and it's unethical. But most of the employees are doing this. They are steal money. They are steal some products. They are doing some frauds. So so many reasons it have. Sometimes employees thinking it's their right to get these things, or sometimes they are in the need of financial problem. They are in some financial problem. So there are so many reasons, but these are the issues which faces by the organization. And workplace violence, so anger, rape, violence in the workplace affecting worker productivity. If the boss is not behaving in a good way all the time, it's anger, shouting, and behaved in a bad temper. So it's of course affect the mood and productivity of the worker. So we give some percentages. So internet use 54% of monitoring done in internet use and in telephone 44% and email messages 30.8%, like in email messages 38.1%, and computer phone 30.8%, job performing using video cameras and so on. So these are the percentages in these and these are the domain. In this domain they are monitoring in this version. So these are the percentages which the employer monitoring every individual um, need of communication or, or domain to look after and to monitor and to spy on employees. So then we have the control measure for thief or um, frauds. So feed forward date, co-current date, and feed and feedback. So the first one is basically careful pre-hiring. Then we establish some um, rules and policies and disciplines, and co-current we treat the employee and we treat the employee with dignity and respect, and then feedback in this we can warn the employee and we can give the feedback that this is not acceptable in organization, and we made some specific policies for discipline procedure, and we can communicate openly, and we can investigate professionally, and we can make some written policies, and we we know the employee on the regular basis about their success implementing the thief and fraud, and then we design the controlling measures. Sorry. And we educate and train the employee about the policies, and we can show them warranties on the video tab or on some sort of videos, and we organize the culture and the relationship of manager, evaluate the culture and relationship of manager and employee, and review your internal security control. We look at security condition, whether our security is strong or not, and we install the lockout option on computer, telephone, or email, and we use the hotlines for reporting incidents. So anyone can report the incidents on hotlines. So then we have the some percentages of violence in the organization. So 42% reported that verbal abuse or yelling, and 29% is yelled at coworkers themselves. Then 23% cried over work-related issues, and 14% basically give damage to someone or some furniture, and 10% see the physical violence in the workplace, and 2% is the co-workers. So these are the percentages of violence in the organization in the workplace, and then we have some measure to control them. The first one is feed forward, written, concurrent, and feedback. Management committed to function, not dysfunction, work environment. And then we have managing by walk around to identifying the potential problem, and how employee treat and interact with each other. And feedback, we can communicate openly about the incident and what's being done. Employee assistance program to help employee with serious behavior problem. So we can assess or guide the employees in some, if they are indulging some serious behavior problem, and allow the employer or work group to breathe during the period of major organization challenge changes. If the organization is in some major change, CEO get changed or structure of management get changed, so we can lessen the grief of the employees and investigate the incident properly, and we make some policies and about the horrible aggression and violence which is going on in the organization, and we can be good role model how to treat others, We can review the policies of companies whether it's okay or not, it's reasonable, fair, and of course we can careful for having and we don't have to ignore the threats and the danger, um, the potential danger which we are seeing, and clearly communicate the policies of organization to employ, and we can take the assistance of some professional to solve the organizational violence, and we can use some tools like provide necessary equipment or procedure for dealing with the violent situation, for example, cell phone alarm system, code name phrases, and so forth. So, some securities we can use to prevent the violation in the organization. Then we have the customer interaction issues. So, it's basically service profit change in which we have to sequence it from employer to customer to profit. If the employer employees to customer behaving or dealing customer with love and affection, so we are ultimately making it. Service capability affects service value, which impact on customer satisfaction. So basically, the quality of service impact the benefits or profit of customers, and it lead to customer loyalty in the form of repeated business. If the customer get the good service, so ultimately they will loyal or more committed to the organization or the product. They are more loyal customer and they will do the repeat purchase or repeat business. So it's the profit of customer interaction quality service. So it's the chain. Basically, the customer would they get good service. So ultimately, they will do the um, business again. Then we have corporate governance, the system used to govern a corporation so that the interest of the corporate owner are protected. In corporate governance, basically, they govern the corporation in which they protect the interest of corporate owners. And we have 2 points in which we have changes in the role of board of directors. So we change if they are not doing their work properly. So we can change the role of director and increase the scrutiny of financial reporting. So, if you guys read the chapter, so we have the example of Enron in which they are stuck in some financial scandal. So they so the government then find out that they are involved in some scandal, and then they do investigation and make some acts um, to in order to protect the interest of corporate governance. So then we have the last one in which we have the service profit chain in which we have the employee. If the employee is loyal and satisfied and service capability, and if the employee is providing the good service to their customer and provide the service quality, and if the employee is productive and output quality and providing efficient and effective output and max output, so ultimately the customer is satisfied and loyal and value the service because they love the service of organization because it's satisfactory, and the organization is dealing the customer efficiently and effectively, and then ultimately the organization is making the profit and their revenue will grow. So basically, employee is operating the strategies and services delivery systems, and in customer we have the service concept. They if they get the good service to specific customer, specific target market, uh, which market they are targeting, so they get the outcome in terms of their profitability. So this is the last slide of this chapter, and this chain is connected to employees is connected to customer, and customer is connected to organization profit. So it's the basically chain. If the employee is satisfied from management, from organization, if the organization treating them with respect and loyalty, so ultimately they are doing their job more efficiently and effectively, and which ultimately affect the customer loyalty and their business and their product. They are become more loyal. They are purchasing, and they are doing business again and again, and doing purchasing again and again from the organization, which give the good services or satisfy them. So it's the chain which depend on each other, and it's all about the controlling and monitoring chapter. And on the next session, we will discuss the and we will move to the next chapter. Hope you guys are getting some concepts or some knowledge from these slides, and that is take care.